Hello everyone, I am going to be casting my first game with a microphone today, so I hope this works. I tried it once before and it didn't work, so hopefully this time it will work. And I believe it will because I changed my settings and I think we are good to go. Now mainly I am showing this particular game because once more it is an illustration of what I've tried to show on some of my other games I've uploaded, which is that typically this strategy tends to work against at least platinum level Zergs and lower. I'm not so sure it would work on diamond or higher, but it might. And I know Zerg, I think Zerg is the race most people think is probably the most overpowered race. I have a really hard time with Zerg in the end game. Seems like their units are just more powerful and they're easier to reproduce, and they are easier. Zerg has an easier time expanding. It just seems like their cheaper base and their ability to switch techs on you and to mass units, um, their ability to make all kinds of larvae and just have a potential army to reinforce itself immediately. Powerful units, it just seems like it's very difficult to keep up with that many production units for the end game. Sure, it is possible, but for me, the best strategy is to make sure I wall myself in against Zerg, and then to go for a build where you get up about 5 or 6 barracks. You get 3 upgrades, all 3 from the tech lab, and you make mostly marauders, but a handful of marines in case you do see some mutas. I learned recently that it's possible if you go for nothing but mutas to make a spire at the 8-minute and 30-second mark, and then to pop out your first wave of mutas from 2 bases at the 9-minute 12-second mark. If you go for mutas as fast as possible, you can have 9 mutas at 9 minutes and 12 seconds. So you pretty much have to build about 4 turrets in your base to handle 9 mutas without really worrying too much about running back to your base to defend it. And that's why I'm building my barracks so tight, because I want to make sure that I can make the most effective use of the turrets I build. I don't want to put turrets all over the base. I just want to put them near my SCVs in these barracks and my command center. And since the Zerg player is over here, he'll probably try running straight into the base with his mutas if he so chooses to do that. So here I put 2 marines on patrol because I thought he might send an overlord to scout me, and instead he is sending a little Zergling. And one reason why I want to make sure I build marines first is because hopefully he will make Banelines. That's part of my strategy, is to make it look like I've got a bunch of marines and then to actually have a bunch of marauders. So I've got a tech lab on each of these. I try to keep my money as low as possible by making as many barracks that can produce 1 unit at a time as possible. And you make more and more money as you keep building SCVs. So you want to make sure you do keep up building more and more barracks. I probably should have built 1 more barracks. And one of the problems with the strategy too is it's easy to get yourself supply blocked. So you want to make sure you keep building supply depots, and pretty much it is best to attack before 14 minutes. By that I mean be in their base before 14 minutes. It seems like for whatever reason at 14 minutes, that's the time when they're going to start finishing their upgrades. Some Zerg players can get out a couple upgrades by 14 minutes, but most of them are about finishing up their first upgrades around 14 minutes. So you want to be you want to be already pretty much finishing up the battle around 14 minutes. And that means leaving your base around 10 or 11 minutes, depending on how far away your opponent is. And I don't always scout my opponent's base if it's Zerg, mainly because this strategy just seems so effective, but you do need to make sure you know where their base is. And it doesn't look like I have scouted them if you just look at what I'm looking at. Oh, I guess I did, but I knew where they were because of process of elimination, I believe, on this map or another. You don't always have to go into their base. It's almost better if you don't scout, I think, sometimes, just because the Zerg player doesn't think that you know where they are, but you do know where they are. If you just go to the 2 wrong bases first, and so you know where the third is, the only other possible option, then you know that that's where they are. They don't know that you know, and so they probably feel a little secure that any attack would take a while to find you, or that they'd be scouted first before you attack. But I already know where he is, and he doesn't know that. So I like having that perhaps slight advantage. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but anyway, I like to get the shields, partly because of the mutas. If there are mutas and I don't have a ton of Marines, I want to keep them alive long enough to kill off the mutas. And you can see I only have about 11 Marines, and already have about 14 Marauders, with 4 more Marauders on the way. And I never built a tech lab on this, but I mean, as you can see, my money's pretty low. 150. It's only enough for 1 Marauder. So I've got 4 Marauder producing barracks going, and it's about the right amount of cash. I do have 1 extra Marauder building one of these bases, and it was supply blocked. So I forgot. You don't want to get supply blocked when you want to go for a timing push, so that was a mistake. I could have had 4 more Marauders out instantly. So I go ahead and call down the supplies for my orbital to get that going again, because I'm getting attacked right now. It's 11 minutes. In fact, I'm a little late. I really like to go before 11 minutes. Just seems like it's the right number of units. And I can kind of tell by my army too, just how big it is. If it's big enough to face what I kind of expect the Zerg player to have, and at this point I felt like I just needed 4 more Marauders. So I wait for these 4 to pop. Timing is so critical. If you have all 4 coming right out, then you might as well wait 1 more second, and you'll have 4 more. And then I've got 4 more on the way. So I'm gonna set my rally point on a Marauder. I'm gonna send out the Marauders first, and they're going to absorb any Baneling attack that is out there, because the Banelings do not do good damage against Marauders. It is not cost efficient for the Zerg player to waste their Banelings by attacking Marauders. It's very hard for Banelings to kill Marauders with their 125 hit points versus only 55 life for Marines. And I probably should set them to separate control groups, even, because even though I send these Marauders out way ahead of the Marines, you'll see by the time I get to the base, the Marines end up in a vulnerable position, and I don't like that happening. I like the Marines being about this far behind the Marauders, and if there's Zerglings and they start swarming, then the Marines come up and start picking off the ones trying to circle around back, and then they'll push forward and join the army to the front. So I really should make separate control groups for these 2 units, and make sure to A-click and keep your finger on the T to stem them as soon as you see Banelings. And if there are no Banelings, then as soon as you see whatever army is coming and that they are close. And you can fight really well without stemming. In fact, once I won this strategy without even having stem. So the Marines here are in a horrible position. It's not where I wanted them. I wanted them right over here. And here's the reason why. Fortunately, they do not have Baneling speed, and these Banelings Marines kill, well, they kill more troops than I would have liked. But if the Marauders were up front, it would have been far fewer. Let's see how many Marines these Banelings end up getting. And I stem as soon as I see them, but it didn't kick in until they were pretty much done with their business. So you can see they did kill about, let's see. Well, they only actually killed 2 of my Marines, but they did look like they made them quite weak. And look how many run into this Marauder and do nothing to it. They did kill a couple of Marauders through there, but it was not worth the cost, and it was not a very efficient use of his army or money or his micro. Just didn't matter. I didn't mean to pull back there. I guess it worked out okay. I was trying to reset my rally point, and the reason why is because the Marauder often dies, who was set to be the rally point, and because you don't want your reinforcements blindly running in sometimes, and so I'd rather have them just rally close to the battle, but not directly say to this Marauder where you might run in and get hit by some mutas or something. And I overstim them because I know if I kill this layer, it will be game over. And I'm not paying any attention to the attacking drone because they are doing 0 damage. It's amazing how little damage they are doing to these armored Marauders. It's like they can't even do any damage at all. And at this point, it's game over. And I'll admit, this is not the best Zerg player I've ever played. Not by a long shot. But this strategy seems to almost always work. Sometimes I have problems with it. Again, if the Zerg player has gotten a lot of reinforcements, or if the battle is on creep. But I would say I have a very high success rate with this strategy. Again, I don't know if it'll work in Diamond or higher, but for the time being, I don't play too many of those, so really enjoy it whenever I see I get a Zerg opponent, because it seems like the Zerg player just has no answer for this. They just, for some reason, before the 14-minute mark, if you have made, I would say at least, I would say you need at least about 30 troops, and most of them are Marauders, and if you do, then you're going to have a very high shot at winning the game, and you have about enough money to expand during this process. I've got 4 Marauders coming, still being produced, but it's easy to build an expo and take an expo as well, if that's what you would rather do. Then if you're afraid of losing the battle and you want to macro, I would recommend building a planetary fortress for some defense if you lose, and to make sure you have a couple turrets at your expo too, in case he did go mutas. But anyway, hope you enjoyed it, maybe even learned something, and I will try to share more tips with you as I learn them on my way to becoming a grandmaster. Thank you. Have a good day.